Well, hello, guys. It's 2 in the morning, and I am up watching Chapel Roan and Lady Gaga's Abracadabra over and over again because I have CPTSD and insomnia is my best friend. I wanted to get on here because I've been thinking a lot today. Or yesterday, I should say, was a hell of a day. I have a lot going on that I haven't talked about. I may have to move soon, which is super, super, super stressful. Yeah, super stressful. There's a lot going on. And so I was really super, super proud of myself yesterday for getting a ton done. For those of us who are narcissistic abuse survivors and are going through the healing journey, it's really difficult to not get stuck in our heads and therefore not be as productive as we want to be, and we get down on ourselves for that quite often. So I've figured out some things. I had therapy yesterday, and I just bleh with my new therapist, and I needed it, and like trauma dump. And I figured out some things. Number one, lately I've been very angry, and I know that. I have every right to be angry with what I've been through lately, with the family and all that. So, I figured out that, as a survivor going through unpacking and processing lifelong narcissistic abuse, you have grief. You can't get away from it. It's a lot of grief. And so you're in the grief cycle all the time. I realized that I'm back at anger. And I wasn't for a while there. I was at depression for a long time. Now I'm back at anger. And I realized that I spent a lot of my life in anger. And I found it safe to be there, which is interesting. It serves as a motivator for me, and it helps me get things done. And when I'm getting things done, I'm feeling better about myself. I've got to get better about that, because there's, if I'm in the grief cycle and I'm stuck in the depression stage, that's part of it. And I've got to stop giving myself grief over that. But I'm proud of myself right now for doing as much as I've been doing. So I was thinking about, I tell you guys a lot of sad stuff, right? A lot of sad stories. Sorry, that was Chapel Roan again. I want to tell you guys about some when Jaren kicked ass stories. So the first one I'm going to tell you about, I did mention in a video before, but I didn't put it on YouTube. I'm going to put this one on YouTube and on TikTok. You know some of my childhood. When I was 15, I lost my best friend, and I went through some major stuff with the maternal figure. What happened was my best friend died on December 16th. And it was the last day of school. It was a Friday in 94. And I found out at school in the afternoon. And because this asshat journalist came on campus and wanted her story, and so it got out. That's how I found out. I'll tell you all about that. It's in the book, the first book. The maternal figure ended up picking me up, and we were barely talking again. So for her to be the one to pick me up, it was like a slap in the face. And we went by where Angela, my best friend, lived, and she had moved. We were fighting at the time, which made things even worse. So I didn't know that she had moved. So I was in shock, and I asked the maternal figure to just take me home. And she did, but when we got to where I was living with the faux father, she said, "You're still coming out for Christmas, right?" And I'm sitting there going, I don't know what's going to happen. I just found out that my best friend died, you know? And that's what I said. And she got angry. And she's like, "You better be there. I have custody of you. I just let you stay here," and blah, 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 right? And she's going off, and I just got out and I slammed the door on her mid-sentence because it just, really? You know? God. Such an ass. So, flash forward, I don't go because screw her. And my best friend's funeral was on the 22nd, and I was a mess. And that's the last place that I wanted to be with her, you know? So she got ticked off, and I wasn't talking to her, and she said that she wanted to make peace and to take me to dinner. So she took me out to Riverside, where she lived, and why we drove all that way, probably so I wouldn't get out of the car and leave. That's probably what it was. Because I've done that. So we're in the parking lot of this restaurant, and we get out, and she's like, "Oh, wait, I forgot something." She made a big show of it. So I knew it was like, God, what now, you know? So she grabs this manila envelope, and she goes and brings the manila envelope with her, and we sit down in a booth, and she pulls out the paperwork from the manila envelope, and she's like, "These are custody papers, and I just want you to understand that I'm letting you live with the faux father, and I can take you back at any point in time." And I used to fear her as a kid a lot. But in that moment, I just sat there looking at her like she ate her food. I just sat there staring at her. And all I could think was, try it. Try it. Because I would have, I was a good kid, but I would have made her existence miserable. Promise. You know, so I'm sitting there thinking of all the ways that I could do so. And she finished eating. I didn't eat anything, just got a soda. She brought me back to the faux father's house. I told him what happened. He said she'll never, she's never going to do that. She's never, gaslight, right? So flash forward a little bit, and she's telling me, you need to come out or I'm going to sick the cops on you. She called the cops and told them that I was doing drugs. I was not. And that I had them in the house and maybe weapons and all kinds of nonsense. And she called and said that she was on her way with the police. And again, the faux father was like, "It's a bluff." And I'm going, I don't think so. So I went upstairs in my room and I packed a go bag and I put it on the landing on the staircase. And sure enough, I'm looking out the window, and sure enough, I see her big red Suburban with a cop car right behind it. And I was like, screw this, and ran. And I mean, ran. I don't think I've ever run that damn fast in my life. And, grabbed the bag, ran out the back door, the sliding glass door, out the back, and just went as fast as I could. I ended up in bushes, laying like army crawling through the bushes so they couldn't find me. 15 years old, right after my best friend dies. I'm literally having to do this. I waited probably about an hour, And then I found a payphone and I called, I don't want to say who, but I called people that I trusted for help, and they came and got me, and they hid me in the car, because they were afraid they were going to get pulled over, and, I was on the run. The cops ransacked my bedroom, found nothing because there was nothing. I ended up having to be out of school for 2 weeks because she kept calling the school and seeing if I was there, and then she would show up if I was there. So I couldn't go to school, and I couldn't go home. And finally, I went to school, and I met with the assistant principal. And God bless him, because he was amazing. He didn't know me, but I didn't know what to do. So I went in there, and I just, bleh. Like, this is what my life has been, and I need help. I don't want to fall behind in school. I was a junior. I didn't want to fall behind in school. I had great grades. I was doing well. So he's like, he went out of the office, and then he came back, and he's like, I talked to some of your teachers. I've looked at your grades. You're a good kid. He's like, we're going to help you. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And he goes, so if you come to school and she calls, we have to tell her that you're here by law. But if somehow you happen to be in class and someone calls the class and says, that she's on her way and tips you off, there's nothing we can do about that. And you run, nothing we could do about that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing that they did that for me. So I go back to school the next day. Sure as hell, she calls. They tell her I'm in English. My English teacher answers the phone. I'm already ready to go, because when she answers the phone, I'm like, I know it's for me. She didn't even say anything. She just turned around and looked at me and went like this, and I bolted. I bolted down to the pier in Huntington Beach. And this is all in the book. It's insane. Right after that, I got sick and with pneumonia for 2 weeks. It was a horrible time, like just trauma from hell. She ended up backing off. So I did end up going back to school after about a month. I don't know if it was the faux father that changed her mind. I don't know what happened. I don't remember. But it was really bad. Right after that, the faux father got remarried, and this woman that he married was like 24 years old, and he was much older. He's probably in his 40s, of course, because that's his MO, right? It's so gross. So this woman had it in her mind that we were going to be like the Brady Bunch. Literally, she said that. And I was the stepdaughter, right? So I really didn't fit into her little plan. And at the time, I was working. I was going to school. I was doing ROP to get my nursing assistant certificate. And I ended up, she said that she wanted to spend time with just me. So we were going to go to the movies, is what she said. So I go with her, I get in the car, and I notice that we're driving nowhere near the movie theater. And I'm like, where are we going? And she's like, we're not going to the movies, we need to talk. And she proceeded to tell me, how I needed to get it together. I needed to make more of an effort and try to be more a part of the family in her mind, whatever the hell that meant. And, stop working so much, I guess, and play whatever role she wanted me to play. It was so sick. And I didn't say anything to her. And when we got home, I told the faux father, and she was behind him, and she was like, I would never, like, as I'm telling him, I'm just going, what the, and he believed her. He believed her. And I was so angry and so hurt and so just bewildered about what the hell, So I went, flash forward, I went to work and I was telling one of my bosses about it. And she was like, she was engaged to a guy that worked there as well. She's like, let me talk to him and I'm going to get back to you. And I'm like, all right. So she talks to him. We all get together and he's like, Jaren, have you heard about emancipation? I had no idea what that was. So he tells me about it. And I'm like, basically it's divorcing your parents. And I went, oh my God, this is it. This is what I need to do. And I did. It's in the book. I won't go too much into it, but I kicked ass. I got it done and I moved the hell out of the state away from all of them. And that's when I moved to Tucson. And one day I'll tell you more about Tucson, specifically Adia. She was the catalyst for my breakthrough. Someone that I was very much in love with, who was a good friend for a while. We knew each other for like 3 or 4 years, and she broke my heart and played games. And I didn't understand. I was too traumatized. I was too naive. I didn't understand what she was doing. I confronted her back in July 2022. And that was the night from hell, and then the next day of breakthrough. So I'm super proud of that. That took strength, and it took everything in me to do that. I'll tell you guys more about the actual moving out and whatnot. But I also wanted to tell you about when the last time I saw the maternal figure. So she had been in the hospital, and Aunt Judas had made it sound like it was worse than it was. And so I struggled because I hadn't seen her forever, for probably years. And I was talking, my son was a teenager at the time and of course lived with me. And I was talking to him and I broke down, and he's like, what's going on? He said, I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically, what are you feeling? Because I couldn't grasp what I was feeling. And I just blurted out, the only person she has is Aunt Judas. And that's so sad. And I just lost it. And he was like, you're so much better of a person than she is, and she doesn't deserve you. And he's like, if you go, I'm going with you. And I'm like, no. He goes, no, I'm going with you. I did end up going. Big mistake. No, none of the other siblings ended up going. But it blew up in my face because she thought that I wanted to be a part of her life or have her be a part of mine again. And that's not what that was. I knew she couldn't be a part of my life again because I knew how sick she is, in my opinion. So I told her over the phone, she'd called again, and I told her, I don't want this to be like a long-term talking kind of thing. And she's like, then why did you show up? And I told her, and she was like, you just showed up to get closure and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no, that's not, I felt bad that you were, there and the only person you had. And she wouldn't even let me get it out. She had her mind made up. So the next day, my cousin and his new wife were out here in California, and they were going to have a big breakfast at where Aunt Judith was staying. So they told me to go. And I don't remember if they said that the maternal figure was going to be there. I assumed she would be. She was. And Aunt Judith set it up to where I was sitting right next to her because, of course she did. And my son, from what I remember, they put him at like the head of the table or something. And so I'm sitting right next to her, and the family, that part of the family, I disagree wholeheartedly with their views on pretty much everything. So Aunt Judith was trying to give my cousin's new wife advice. And she was like, well, the man is in charge and da-da-da-da-da. And everybody around that table was like, yeah, that's right. The man's in charge. You listen to the man. And I looked over at my son, and he is paying attention to everything. He's a teenager. And I'm like, no, I am not going to let them pull the same shit that they pulled with me growing up. This is not happening. So I spoke up, and I basically said, that's bullshit. Don't listen to them. The man is not in charge. The woman is not in charge. If you're in a relationship, it's 50-50. There's nobody in charge of the other person. You are your own people, And then I further told him that if he grew up and he turned out to be gay, then the man is not in charge. He's not in charge. If he was straight, then he was not in charge, and the woman was not in charge. That it was and anyway, I did this whole thing, and I talked directly to him, and around the table I'm hearing, oh my God, Jaron, no, oh my God, and I didn't care. I didn't care because without realizing it, I was trying to break the cycle. And I put up with that shit being said to me as a kid, and knowing in my head that they were full of shit. But I wasn't going to let them do that to my kid. I wasn't. And after my rant, I sat back and I ate my fruit in front of me, and I had a big old grin on my face. And they said nothing, and got up and, left and whatnot. Saw the maternal figure in her car, and that was the last time I saw her. But I am so proud of those moments, both the emancipation and what I said at that table at breakfast, because I wasn't meek. I wasn't sitting there in my head, trying to figure out what to do. I just did it. And I took care of me, and I took care of my son. And my point in doing this tonight or this morning, right now I'm going through it again. I'm going through it. And I am trying to find that Jaron again, because what I'm going through is it's one of the lowest points in my adult life. And I am going to have to muster that kind of courage again. So, yeah, that's where I am. If I can help it, I am not going to let myself get to the point of depression. I'm going to march on with my head held high, and I'm going to get through this. So, survivors out there, you can. Even at your lowest moments, you think back at your highest moments and the moments you're most proud of, and you muster that courage, and you march on. That's what I'm doing. All right, guys, that was a long one. I hope everybody's doing well. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good morning.